India recently said no to American oil and turned to West Africa. On the surface, it looks like a business decision. But beneath it, this shift tells us something much bigger about sanctions, sovereignty, and where Africa fits in the new global order. Welcome to the Africa Briefing Room, where Africa's headlines meet hard analysis. Today we unpack why India rejected U.S. oil and bought Nigerian crude instead, what it says about sanctions on Russia, and how West Africa's oil is gaining leverage in a global chess game. In early September, India's state-run Indian Oil Corporation announced its latest crude purchase agreement. But this time, it skipped out on American crude oil. Instead, it bought 2 million barrels of Nigeria's Agbami and Usan crude, plus 1 million barrels of Abu Dhabi's Das blend. Shipments are expected to arrive in late October and November of this year. Just a few weeks ago, the Indian Oil Corporation had been sourcing from the U.S. The sudden pivot was seen as deliberate, a signal that West Africa and the Middle East were offering a stronger edge on both price and timing than American suppliers. But why this sudden change in buying patterns? The answer lies in sanctions. Since 2022, U.S. and European sanctions against Russia have redrawn the global oil map. Russian barrels, sold at steep discounts, now pour into Asia. India and China have become the biggest buyers, seizing the chance for cheap supply, even as Washington pushes back. Meanwhile, the map on U.S. crude is less favorable. Freight rates, delivery schedules, and pricing formulas all work against it. By the time American cargoes reach Indian shores, they often cost more. In the oil market, it all comes down to price. As a sovereign nation, India will always go for the deals that make the most economic sense. Yet, economics wasn't the only factor shaping New Delhi's choices. Politics also raised the stakes. In August, the U.S. had already placed a 25% tariff on many Indian exports. But Washington added another 25%, this time in retaliation for New Delhi's continued purchases of Russian oil. Together, the two measures pushed tariffs to about 50% from August 27th, among the steepest faced by any U.S. trade partner. For India, the impact was significant. Economists warned the move could shave growth and stall manufacturing, while exporters braced for losses. Yet New Delhi doubled down. Energy security comes first. But here's where the double standard lies, not in India's stance, but in Washington's own energy choices. Washington has pressed India to curb its Russian crude imports, even punishing New Delhi with new tariffs. Yet the U.S. itself still buys enriched uranium from Russia, because its own nuclear plants depend on it. In 2023, Russia supplied about 12% of the uranium delivered to U.S. plants. For enrichment, the process that turns uranium into reactor-ready fuel, Russia was the largest foreign supplier, providing roughly 27% of U.S. services. Altogether, U.S. purchases of Russian uranium products topped $1.2 billion that year. While Washington now has a law to phase out this dependence, imports are not set to end fully until 2028. And the U.S. is not alone in its double standards. Brussels has urged others to cut ties with Moscow, yet the European Union still imports Russian oil indirectly. Much of it arrives through refined products made in third countries like India and Turkey, or through shadow fleet, ship-to-ship transfers that blur origin. Against this backdrop of sanctions, tariffs, and double standards, another player is quietly gaining ground. This is where West Africa comes in. Nigerian crude is known as light, sweet oil, meaning it has low sulfur content and flows easily. That makes it cheaper to refine into gasoline and diesel, and especially attractive to countries like India. Grades such as Agbami and Usan are prized for this reason. They also benefit from the Atlantic to Asia arbitrage. That's when price differences between regions make it cheaper for buyers in Asia to ship oil all the way from West Africa than to buy it from nearby countries. The arbitrage window doesn't stay open all the time, but when it is, Nigerian oil shipments can move east quickly, giving refiners in Asia a flexible alternative. In 2024 alone, India imported roughly $4.1 billion worth of Nigerian crude, and September's supply deals suggest that link is strengthening. West African crude are no longer just filling gaps. They are becoming a strategic option for one of the world's largest energy consumers. And that shift feeds directly into India's broader energy strategy. For New Delhi, The calculation is simple: energy security above politics. Indian refiners have stated that they will keep buying Russian oil as long as it's cheap, rely on Middle Eastern supplies for stability, and turn to West African crude when the price or supply situation makes sense. This diversification is deliberate, a shield against shocks, tariffs, or diplomatic pressure. Even with new U.S. measures targeting its Russian imports, India is signaling it will not be boxed in. It will buy from whoever meets its needs at the right price, whether that's Riyadh or Lagos. For Washington, this is a miscalculated blow. The sanctions that were meant to isolate Russia are instead reshaping global trade flows. They've opened doors for African producers to step in as swing players. And with every cargo that replaces U.S. supplies, West Africa gains bargaining power not just on price, but on investment terms and long-term contracts. In closing, this isn't just India buying a few shipments of Nigerian crude oil. This appears to be part of a shifting energy order, a move towards South-South trade, where emerging economies increasingly turn to one another instead of traditional Western suppliers. For Africa, the challenge is whether this new leverage can translate into something lasting: investment in infrastructure, stability in output, and stronger terms at the negotiating table. Because in today's global energy chess match, Africa is no longer a spectator. It's now positioned on the board.